and the dam
It's
all opened up.
Yeah, if this was ice,
Put it back in there, it's just
Good morning.
Yeah, we could live when we drove into Dallas.
He doesn't need this, does he?
Oh, the south part of the city is horrible. It was just really bad.
and that last one?
Yeah, that, what, a month ago or so?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's. And then we got up here, we've been walking through our neighborhoods when we walked, and there's a lot down here that doesn't have here, it's where the south part of the city is. In fact, I went to the doctor's office, I had to get a refill of vitamins or something, they had no lights, computer, no nothing.
Wow, really? Oh, wow. Well, Jack, I'm still gardening.
Are you?
Yesterday I planted a great big old patch of turnips
Really?
and 2 kinds of mustards and 2 kinds of lettuce and some kale. We'll see what happens.
Wow.
I'm
Now, do you
curious.
think that'll all come up this spring?
I'm hoping. I was trying
Wow.
to
Is
keep,
it
I kept trying to
experiment?
wait till the ground gets cold enough where the seeds won't sprout. Then just as soon as it starts getting warm, then it's experiment. I'm just
Hey,
curious.
you got the ground and the
Yeah.
energy.
I'm curious to do it because the best mustard I've ever had, I had last spring from volunteer seed that came up over the winter. I mean, it was just tender and beautiful.
I'll need to
So I
wait.
thought, I'm trying something different this year.
It works that way. The best time to overseed your lawns in
Fall.
the late winter.
Yeah,
That way
right
people
now.
who are
Seed
watching
later
at home
dormant,
can hear you.
but when it gets warm, they will come up.
So
So
I'm
you just
curious
put it on
to
your
see,
bill.
maybe I'll have a really bunch
I
of
hope you have a
greens.
bumper crop.
Maybe I'll have a beautiful.
And the green
I got some mustard greens
lines
tonight. I
means
think
it's a
yesterday.
sound.
But
And so you don't have to do anything else, you're
Just-
good to go.
I'm hoping that this is gonna really be.
Mustard
I was
greens,
like-
turnip greens, collard greens. That sounds so good. I'm hungry.
And I
Very
planted
close to
some
this.
other kind of thing, but I can't remember what you call it. Another, it's kind of like for salad, but I can't think what it's called.
Kale.
No, I think kale. This other thing is, it's kind of like the leaves are kind of long and it's rolled out like this, and it's kind of spicy. No, what is it? What is it called? I've been trying to think on one. What was it called?
I'm into.
What kind of light this morning, aren't we?
Like very.
I don't really like it. I used to grow
People
up
holding up on the weather, I think.
reading these books and they said, breakfast, because they always put it right on your plate in these restaurants.
All right, ladies, let's go ahead and get started. Jack, would you like to lead us in prayer?
Heavenly Father, we're thankful for this time in the life we have. We're thankful for the night of sleep we had. We're so thankful for all the many blessings in this life. We're thankful for the time to come here and study more from your word and be with the preacher, a teacher as we go through the class. Try to learn from it. Please forgive us any wrongdoings in Jesus' name we pray.
Amen. Well, we got a rainy morning.
Yes, we did. Or letters? It is raining instead of ice.
Just kind of glad it's not snow.
Or ice.
Yes, up in the panhandle, they're getting it.
I imagine they are.
They are, according to the weatherman.
Well, this morning, what I'd like to do is kind of have a conversation. And I'd like to start in Matthew chapter 11. This my little stand. I feel I'm so far away from you guys back there. The focus of our study today is going to be verse 25 to the end of the chapter, primarily the last 3 verses. But to set the context, I'd like to start at the beginning of the chapter. In the beginning of the chapter there, John has sent word by his disciples to Jesus, and they've come down and they've been talking to him and asking him questions. And then as they finish up and they go ahead and go away, then Jesus, in verse 7, starts addressing the multitude, saying, hey,
7 or 25?
Which chapter are you
Yeah,
in?
where are?
chapter 11,
11.
Oh, left.
11 of Matthew.
Found my brain.
Chapter 11. So the first 6 verses is dealing with John, and they've sent the disciples for John's, they've seen Jesus, and they go back and they give their report. Verse 7 there, and as they're going away, Jesus then starts talking to the multitudes. This is What did you go out into the wilderness to look at? A reed shaking in the wind? He's chastising them. He says, but you go out to see a man dressed in soft clothing, and he talks about John and how John was the Elijah that was prophesied to come to prepare the way. So, now, he goes all the way down there, talks about the prophets had prophesied about him and everything else. And then he says, he who has ears, let him hear. Okay. Then he compares his generation to those as children. And they mock each other and say, well, we played a flute and you did not dance, and we sang a dirge and you did not mourn. And he compares John coming neither eating or drinking. They think he has a demon. The Son of Man comes eating and drinking, and they say he's a gluttonous man and a drunkard. Now notice the last sentence in verse 19. Yet wisdom is vindicated by her deeds. Right? The deeds are what counts. And when we see somebody's deeds and they produce good works, we know that's good, wise thinking, right? But when they don't produce good works, we know it's the opposite. Verse 20, he's now been reproaching those that have been following him and coming out to see John and then to come to see him and then comparing the two with what they were doing. Verse 20 there through 24, he's reproaching the cities because of the wonders that have been done in those cities. And basically he's saying is, if Tyre and Sidon and Sodom had seen the wonders that you have seen, they'd be with us today. They would have repented. But you can't even repent. Which brings us down to verse 25. So we're in Matthew 11.
Cal,
Yeah.
could I ask you, when it says, if it would have been Tyre and Sidon, they would have repented, is that meaning that they knew they were sinful and these people don't?
No. It means that they would see those miracles and say, that guy's from God. Okay? What happened to Jonah when he went up to Nineveh? What happened in Nineveh when Jonah went there? They repented. They repented. I don't know if he did miracles, what happened, but Jonah went up there and they repented. Now, you're seeing Jesus do these miracles. These things that no man can do. And yet, what he's saying is Capernaum and Chorazin, Bethsaida. I'm comparing you to Tyre and Sidon. I'm comparing you to Sodom. Why? Because they were totally unrepentant in their hearts. Now, verse 25, he sums this up. He says, at that time, or on this occasion, Jesus answered, and another word for that is said, I praise thee, O Father. It's a doxology now. I praise thee, O Father, Lord of heaven and earth, that thou didst hide these things from the wise and the intelligent, and didst reveal them to babes, or to the innocent. Yes, Father, for thus it is well pleasing in thy sight. All things have been handed over to me by my Father. Now he's now talking to the apostles. All things have been handed over to me by my Father, and no one knows the Son except the Father, nor does anyone know the Father except the Son, and anyone to whom the Son wills to reveal him. So, back with the apostles, he has this doxology, and why were these things hidden and only revealed to the innocent? Well pleasing. So what's it say? It says, I praise you, O Father of heaven and earth, that thou didst hide these things from the wise, the intelligent, and didst reveal them to babes. How did he hide them?
It's the way he wrote it. It's the way he worded it. That people just didn't,
It was plain and
they
simple.
weren't spiritual enough to understand it.
That's right. They didn't have a desire to
Didn't
understand. They
desire,
didn't have a need to
yes.
understand. Now, who was it that responded when you do different classes of people? Who was it that responded to the gospel. In economic classes, which class responded? The poor. Okay? Okay, in political classes, which class responded? Those that had power, those that didn't have power.
Rich.
No. Those that didn't have power, right? All the haves didn't respond. Okay? So in social classes, political classes, economic classes, any type of classes, what about in the religious classes? Who responded to Jesus? Was it the haves or the have-nots?
Have-nots.
The have-nots, okay. So those that were self-righteous, those that were satisfied in their self-righteousness did not respond. But it was the sinners and those that recognized their shortcomings that responded to Jesus. That's how it was hidden. It was hidden right there in plain sight. The best place to hide something. Okay. This brings us to the text where I want to talk about. Let me read verses 28, 29, and 30. Come to me, all who are heavy laden, and I will give you, are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you shall find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy, and my yoke is light. The references to the yoke, this is the only time it's in the New Testament. The other Gospels don't have this. So he says to me, come to me all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest. What's he talking about there?
Weary of life?
Means he has not much, he wants not much, and he's don't worry much.
Yeah. All who are weary, all those who work to exhaustion, literally is what that means. So you've been working, you've been laboring, you've been struggling, okay? And you have this burden that is bearing you down. Sometimes we get burned down by the cares of the world. But a lot of times it's family concerns. I'm worried about mom and dad. They're getting old. They're having trouble getting around. I'm worried about Uncle John. You know, he's got cancer. I'm worried about this. These cares, they weigh on us and they burden us down. We have our own personal problems and our own personal health that concerns us. We've been working, struggling to get ahead, trying to plan for old age and all those type of things. The same cares and things that we have today are what they had back then. Human nature hasn't changed any. But he says, all those that are weary and heavy laden, I will give you rest. I will give you respite from these things. Okay. Now, we know from the Gospels, because of our knowledge, what is coming. We have information that even the apostles didn't have. They were still learning. In many ways, we are way ahead of them because we have everything here that we've been able to read and see. But at this stage, they were still in the learning curve. And so he's talking to them. So who's going to come to him? The have-nots. The guys that are struggling. Now, sometimes people come into our congregation and we really like to see the ones coming in. They have good personalities, well-behaved kids that make money and everything else. But really, the people that come in that need us are the ones that are struggling. And that's the ones that we have a really good chance with. So we have these preachers that want to go out there and they want to preach to the wealthy and everything else. Great. But who really needs the preaching? It's the ones that are struggling, and they're the ones that will listen. So now he's identified the class of people that are going to come to him. Now let's take
Yeah.
Yes.
They all need it,
They all need it.
but the ones that's most receptive to it is the
That's right.
poor.
But they see their need.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
There's a difference between somebody who has a need and doesn't see it and somebody that sees what his need is. Now, many times you're talking to people, you identify the need for them. you illustrated why they have the need. They just don't see it. So sometimes you have to point it out to them.
There's a saying that says there are none so blind as those who will not see.
That's exactly right.
So that's the class you're talking about. They will not see. They have their eyes on something else.
I'll tell you right now, there are some people who like to talk about religion. We have them at work. But they will not see. They don't want to hear what you have to say, anything else. They're only interested in what they're saying. Now, when we study with people, we have to listen to what they're saying. And if we're really studying, we have to examine what they're saying, just like the same way we want them to examine what we're saying. Well, that's the hard part for a lot of people. But we have people there that I will not discuss religion with them, because for them it's a game. For them, they're just trying to pass some time and ridicule somebody. So I shook the dust off my feet a long time ago as far as they're concerned. But if there's somebody who has a need, then I talk to them. And occasionally I talk to guys at work that have a definite need. Now, what's my success rate? Because of the class of people they are, by that I mean that they have good jobs, they have saved money, everything else. I don't make much progress, but sometimes I'm able to get them to listen for a while and make some progress. Now, the verses I really want to focus on here is verse 29 and 30, and I'd like to work on those because I like us to understand exactly what Jesus was saying here. He says, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you shall find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my load is light." When you think about the yoke, do you think about the yoke as being something good or not? What?
Could be both.
Could be both. But what is the yoke?
It binds two together.
It couples
Yeah.
two together to work as a team, right? That's what it's for. What was the purpose of the yoke? To work.
Get the job done.
It was work. But I suspect that for the Jews, in all of the scriptures, all the way through up to this time, and even in the New Testament, yoke is used more frequently in the form of a punishment or negatively concerning work. All through the scriptures, God is telling them, I'm going to put my yoke on you. You're going to be a yoke of iron. You'll be yoked. You'll be doing this. We're humans. How would you like to have an iron collar around your neck that can be attached to a chain? And you wear that collar all the time. That's your yoke of slavehood. That's what most slaves had to wear, is a collar of iron. Sometimes brass. Valued slaves, collar might be made of silver, okay? But that's what it was. It was yoke. And that's the way they saw it, I think, most of the time. Because that's the way it was used in Scripture. So in Scripture, the yoke is always used either as punishment or a form of forced servitude or work, or it's literally used, we're talking about he got as much land as he could plow in a day. Okay, with the yoke of oxen. Or I've bought 5 yoke of oxen and I need to test them. That type of thing. So when we talk about the yoke, that's what we want to talk about. What the yoke is and what Jesus is really saying here. He says, take my yoke upon you. Whose yoke are we talking about?
The burden he bears.
Hmm?
The burden Christ bears.
Okay. So when you take your yoke upon you, who's doing the work?
You are.
Oh. That's the way most of us think. I got his yoke. I've got it. But that's not the way it is. A yoke couples two together. So your yoke, typically, you've all seen pictures of them. Remember when you were in, like something like this. I'm not a very good artist. And then coming down out of the bottom of this would be two wooden dowels or large pieces of wood. They would be heated and curved and then inserted in here. The animal's head goes through these pieces here, and so when he pulls, this is resting on his back, and he pulls against this, and of course, the tree, the hauls, the wagon, or the plow is attached to here. So both working. So when he says, take my yoke,
Who's helping?
you're not by yourself. You're working with him. Now, Jack's got to work with horses, I guess mules too, haven't you, Jack? You ever worked with oxen?
No.
I never worked with oxen. I've been around oxen some, but not. I've worked with mules and stuff like that. You got two in there. The right mule, the right ox is always called the lead ox. So you put your seasoned and your best ox in the right-hand side. A new ox, a new mule, goes on the left-hand side. He's the off mule or the off ox. So you got the lead on the right. The lead will be seasoned. He's trained. He knows what to do. Now, can you imagine training a new mule, putting him in harness? You get him in the harness and everything else, and he gets that. Now you hook him up. What do you think happens?
You don't like it.
He doesn't like it a bit. Now, your lead mule is a seasoned pro. He's been around. He's tempered. He's patient. He knows what to do. So you start your wagon off, okay, and that off mule is fighting it. He's kicking. You want him to go this way, the lead mule's headed that way, and this mule wants to go that way, and he's fighting it all he can. But he's fighting not just the lead mule, he's fighting the wagon, the load, and everything else. And then he wants to go first. He gets out in front and he's just powering. He's trying to get away. Doesn't. The lead mule is steady. He stays in the road, on the path, like he's being guided, okay? And we make progress. What happens to the off mule because of these struggles?
Eventually goes through the other one.
Yeah, he gets so tired he just can't fight anymore, right? So now he's doing that. The next day you hook him up again. What do you think happens?
Starts down the same way.
Same thing. Same thing.
Yeah, train.
That's what's happening. This continues until finally he gets used to it and he learns, this is where I'm being. And then he starts cooperating with the lead mule and he finds life is easier. Well, what Jesus is saying says, take my yoke upon you and learn from me. Get in the yoke with Jesus. He's the lead. Learn from him. Follow his lead. You're working as a team now. And as you get better as working as this team, what happens in your life? Things smooth out. Now, generally speaking, when I'm working with Jesus, my life goes pretty smooth. Whenever I get out of step and I start fighting the yoke, what happens to me? Things don't go so smooth, right? As soon as I get back, start doing my sharing and traces, what happens? Life smooths out again. So, first lesson we take from this is the fact it's not me alone taking the yoke. It's me getting in the yoke with Jesus. He's the lead, I'm the off. I have to learn from him. And he's gentle, okay? And he's humble. He just keeps going straight ahead, where he's supposed to go, and all I have to do is learn to get in there and pull with him. And then my load is light. Otherwise, just imagine being in that yoke all by yourself, trying to handle everything by yourself. That's what I was doing. Isn't it right? That's what I was doing. I was out there all by myself trying to do all this, handle all this. Now I've got a teammate there. Now we can compare this to marriage if you want. Find the right partner in marriage, work as a team, you accomplish much. Life is pleasant and the load is easy. But if you're in a marriage where you're not working as a team, how is life? It's a pain. It's miserable. Do you accomplish much? No. Are you happy? No. So it's a burden. So come to Jesus, take my yoke, learn from him. And he says, I'm gentle and humble in heart. Now, imagine that you're pioneers. The year is 1850. Or maybe 1849. They discovered gold in California. And you want to go across the plains, maybe to Oregon, take the Oregon Trail. And so you're going to leave next year, and you've got a couple 2-year-old oxen that you're ready to start training. So, in order to train these oxen to the yoke, you have to have a yoke, right? So we go down to Walmart and we buy ourselves a yoke. Is that the way we get a yoke? No. Where do we get a yoke?
Got a tree out there.
Okay, there's a tree out there, but probably, I would probably go to maybe a Cooper, because they made yokes, or a guy that makes wagon wheels, or a guy that makes wagons themselves. Sometimes blacksmiths would make yokes. And so you go down there to the yoke place, Joe's Yokes. I said, Joe, I got a couple oxen, I need a yoke. And he says, I got 6 over here, take your pick. I've got a red one, a green one, a yellow one, a white one, a black one, and one that's got natural colors to you. Which one do you want? And you say, I looks like the red one, huh? So you get home with that red oak, and you get your oxen together, and then you put that oak on them. It's pretty. What are chances it's going to fit? Couldn't just any old yoke. You had to take the oxen down, and they would fit the yoke to the oxen. That's what they'd have to do. Next year, when you're ready to head for Oregon, do you think that yoke would still fit? They were 2 years old when you started training them. Do you think that yoke is going to fit now? They've grown. They've gotten strong. You need a new yoke. And you have to keep replacing the yoke because you have to get the yoke to where it fits them. Because if it doesn't fit them, it's going to gall them. Okay? And if it doesn't fit them, they're not going to be effective. It's going to hurt to pull, and you're not going to get as much good work done. So, it says, verse 30, for my yoke is easy and my load is light. When we think about that yoke, in the past, what have we thought when I heard my yoke is easy? What does that mean to you?
You're going to have hard work.
Huh? Or do we like things to be easy?
Yes.
Yeah, easy assembly. I like that. Okay. Easy to cook. Yeah. What does easy mean?
No problem.
No problem. Doesn't take much effort. That doesn't sound right for a yoke, right? The yoke's going to take effort. Okay. What other words do your translations have in verse 30 for easy? Do you have another word that you use there? Everybody got the easy? Well, I think the word easy here gives us a connotation that it's not going to require effort. I think there's many words that can be used for easy. Comfortable is another word that could be used for easy here. Okay.
It's not a word that we're just gonna, which requires no effort at all.
Yeah.
It's gonna require effort,
Mhm.
but because you're if you're working with Christ, then the effort is easier, but there is effort.
There is effort there, okay. But he says my yoke is easy. The word easy, I don't think is the right word to use there. Comfortable would be better, but fits is a better term. When you put my yoke on, it fits. It's comfortable. You can work in it. That's what it's designed for you. That's what he's talking about here. He says, my yoke fits for what we want to accomplish. And then my load is light. So when we talk about this, think about that. Yeah, go ahead.
You used an example a while ago, the man that's getting ready to go to California, and he trains his oxen for a period of time. And they grow, they get larger, the yoke is larger. In our yoke with Christ, that yoke does not change.
No, it doesn't. Doesn't have to change.
Because it's a perfect yoke which meets our needs and requires our cooperation, but it's not a yoke which we have to change all the time.
No. We get into that yoke. What happens to us?
We grow. We grow.
The longer we wear that yoke, the better it fits, the more comfortable it is. So that's a good point. We don't have to change Christ's yoke. It fits us at our individual stage.
And it's unchanging.
When I first get into that thing, it fits us one way. But as I grow, the fit changes. And as I mature and get stronger, it changes again until I can pull with Jesus and I'm doing my share of the work. Jesus always does his share. Compare it to the postcards and things you've seen, the picture of tracks in the sand. And there's two sets of tracks, and then all of a sudden there's one set of tracks for a period of time, and then another set of tracks. And the caption under it, the person says, Jesus, you said you'd always be with me, but I only saw one set of tracks there. And Jesus says, son, that's when I was carrying you. Okay? That's the idea of this thing. We get into this yoke and it fits for all time. It's comfortable as we get into it. It's fitting. It fits us. So your yoke and your harnesses have to fit. Jackie, ever tried to pack with a harness that didn't fit on somebody? How's that work? on a mule.
Somebody,
On a mule.
trying to figure out who you meant somebody.
Well, for that mule.
Yeah, I've plowed behind a mule many a day.
Yeah. But put a harness on a mule that doesn't fit, you're not going to get good results. If you're packing out and you don't pack him right and it doesn't fit, you're going to have problems. If you're saddling up to go someplace and you don't get the cinches right and you don't saddle him correctly, guess what? You'll have problems. Yeah.
The point I'm getting here is you get the harness that fits the mule or the ox.
That's right.
We grow into ours.
We grow into ours. We grow into it. It fits us when we first come in for where we are. And then as we follow, as we are trained by the lead, Jesus is the lead, and as he trains us, what happens to us? We get stronger and fitter and more productive until finally we're able to pull with him. And we're pulling our full share of the load. We're never going to pull as much as he does. Never can. But we can pull our share. Lastly, he says, my yoke is easy and my load is light. Yeah, I don't think anybody ever told oxen pulling a Conestoga wagon out west that his load was light. Those wagons were super well built. They were super heavy because they had to, there was no road. There was a trail. But the first ones went out there, they had to build that trail. Okay? The load was never going to be light. Okay? But Jesus says his load is light. What's he talking about?
Never gives us more than we can handle.
Okay. What's Corinthians, is it 13? Yeah, go ahead.
I think that means that Jesus' load is light. I think that means if we follow Jesus, our load will be lighter.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't work with Jesus, we follow him. We do the will of God.
Well, yeah, but we're in the harness with him. He says, my yoke. He's in half of that yoke. We're in half that yoke. He's showing and training us and showing us the way. Okay? He does. But we've got to do our share. But you're right. When we follow him or follow his lead, that's when our load is light. Yeah. What about the cares of the world regarding my relations in my family? Can I still have some problems in my family?
That's your yoke. Yep, that's your heavy yoke.
Yep, that's a heavy. But with Jesus in my life, is that easier to bear? Does he help bear that with me? Now, I've got a brother and sister just, I hope I get my brother back. I'm not, my sister, I don't think I'll ever have a chance to do that. But they've just kind of gone off the world. They've screwed up their lives, their kids' lives, and everything else. Okay, I mean that's hard to bear. But with Jesus with me, I know I've got to keep my attitude a certain way and do what I can to help them. But I can't force them to do anything. But my load in my brother's load in his personal life is huge. It's huge. But my load in my personal life, my relationship with my wife, I have a light load. I'm in the harness, she's in the harness, Jesus is showing the way, so our load is light from the cares of the world. What about our children? My brother has problems with his kids, grandkids, okay? My sister has problems, okay? Billy and I, pretty fortunate. We don't have those problems right now, but we're in the harness and we're pulling. And Jesus is the one that's showing us the way, and we're just following his lead. So, in my social life, do I have problems in my social life? Not like my brother has, or my business life, not like my brother has, or my sister's had. Okay? Why not? Because I'm in the harness and I'm pulling with Jesus and he's showing me the way. So what about the way we handle money? You know, there's never enough money, but whatever money is there is enough. You ever thought about that? You think you never have enough, right? But we've been really poor. We've been to the point where I didn't know what we were going to eat the last 3 days before payday. And then something would happen. Our circuit. I believe in providential nature, that God works and stuff. So, but as long as we stay in a harness there, those things seem to come around. So, and when we were young, we had people that would help us. We didn't ask, they just saw the need and then they helped us. So, as we've grown older, when we've seen the need when we were younger in our 30s and 40s and 50s, and I started making a little money. And when we saw a need for young people, we tried to help where we could, okay? And he tried to do that today. But we're following Jesus' lead in that. And as long as we do that, our load is light in all aspects of our life. Now, you're still going to have things happen. Everybody understand that? One of the kids is going to go off and do something. Okay, that's going to happen. You know? Somebody's going to get sick. That's going to happen. But with Jesus working with us, we can make our load light. So let's read it again, and now let's understand now. It says, take my yoke, come to me, all who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest or respite. I'll give you relief. I'm going to help you. Okay, everybody that is qualified under verse 28 to come to Jesus, that needs to come to Jesus, just raise your hand. Do you need this? I do. I do. I'm weary and heavy laden sometimes, and so I go to Jesus. Okay. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart. Okay, Jesus, I'm ready. I'll put my head through that yoke there. Strap me up. Let's go. Okay. Remember, he's the lead. Follow his lead. When I first did this, do you think I was real good at it? No, I wasn't. I fought it at times. Okay. But I learned that when I stayed with Jesus, I was doing good. I did find out that he was gentle, he was humble. He took his time with me. He trained me. And I did find rest. And I did find that his yoke was comfortable. It fits. And because it fits so well, as I've grown, I can do more and pull more. And I have found that his load is light. So that's what I want to talk to you about this morning, was truly understanding this first and all the ramifications that it has for us. What does it tell you? So, if you sum this up into one sentence, what does those 3 verses tell you?
You can't do it by yourself.
You don't have to do it by yourself. If you try to do it by yourself, then you're not thinking clearly. And the Proverbs talk about how 2 people are stronger than 1. Now, in doing carpentry work, when you compare a team of 2 carpenters working to 1 guy working by himself, when you look at how much work the team gets as opposed to what 2 guys working by themselves will get, which gets more? The 2 is a team. 2 is a team do 3 times as much work as 1 guy. So you got 2 guys working by themselves over here. They produce a month. They produce much less than the team makes, because the team working together can basically get 3 times as much work to it. And I can tell you that's true. From building houses, something where I had to work by myself. Oh, I'd look back at the end of the day at what I got done. I got something done. But man, when my partner was there, we'd do 3 times as much work. I'd work trying to put up rafters. Okay? At the end of the day, I've got half of one side done, because I'm having to carry everything by myself, cut it, put it in place, go up, nail one end, nail the other, go back down, bring another board up. Okay. At the end of the day, I've got half of that, one side of that roof done. My partner comes up the next day. We do one whole side and finish the other half in one day. And that's the philosophy here, is share the load with Jesus. Okay? And that's our class for today. Lean on him. Oops. That cheated me. Yeah.
The way I take that message there, Jesus' load is light because he follows God, he is God, he does
Yeah.
right
Yeah.
and holy. So his load's light.
Mhm.
So if you're burdened and heavy laden or whatever, then learn from Jesus and take his yoke and your load. Pull the same load he pulls, it's a whole lot lighter.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Get rid of
So
all that
follow
stuff.
Jesus, follow Jesus.
I mean, if you could just shed some of your problems, you know. I mean, we could talk about debt. Debt is really the devil's tool. So many people are in debt and it puts such a burden upon them. But you can think back to when you owed money or owed this, that, the other, and once you got stuff paid off, and man, you felt so much better, right? You had to, and you didn't have these obligations. And actually, Satan didn't have as good a hold on you as he did before. He was trying to control you. So, all this easy credit stuff like this that's out there, people are in debt. Satan owns them, man. He owns them.
You do know the mixed designs on
That's the way it sounds like.
there. You got one design on this side, the other.
Yeah, I know. I'm not,
There's two designs there.
that's why I don't make yokes. I'm not very good at it.
Oh, I hear you.
And
And we were almost like a woman that did that.
Yeah.
Nowadays,
Yeah.
kids nowadays, they don't even understand, don't get that.
Yeah.
They're just,
Fixed up your design for it.
you see, what happens here is he hasn't worn that edge off yet. Fighting against it.
I'll stick it in my purse.
Cool. Thank you, sir.
Can, already stuck it in there.
See you guys.
Thank you very much.